Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a team that made it all the way up to Legend rank in the Jungle Cup, featuring the newly buffed Kanto Articuno. Now, these battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Maki DK, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, at the start of the season, Articuno got access to Powder Snow, giving it a good Ice-type fast attack for the very first time. To round out the rest of the team, he's running a Water Gun Shadow Quagsire save switch and Pangoro as the closer to help protect that Articuno from its arch nemesis, Licky. So, without further ado, let's hop onto the matches, and let's take a look at Articuno hitting Legend rank in the Jungle Cup. Picking up a pretty nice lead in the first match, Articuno into Quagsire. Opponent safe switches into Licky, and there's the response, in comes Pangoro. This matchup is so dominant for Pangoro that Pangoro does win his straight close combat. Pangoro, however, opting for a bait. This is a bit of a risk. If Licky calls it, Licky may be able to win the zeros, but Licky puts up the shield, and now the opponent is in a position from which they can never recover. Pangoro shields up the body slam, now can overfarm massively. Night Slash still not going to be enough, so this time will full send the close combat. The opponent really has to hope that they have fast food pressure into the Pangoro in the back, because if it's just the Quagsire getting brought back in, Mudshot is never really going to threaten a farm down. Pangoro 2 for 2 on getting shields with Night Slashes, the opponent in absolute shambles, and not only has switch advantage been lost, but shield advantage has been lost as well. In comes Fortress, answered with the Quagsire, opponent sees the writing on the wall, and concedes the match. Picking up a terrible lead in game number 2, leading Articuno into Licky. That is basically the worst case scenario matchup for Articuno, so an instant save switch into the Quagsire is going to be met with a Bug Bite Fortress. Quagsire is up quite a bit of energy here, so Quagsire will land the Aqua Tail, and for some reason this is the non-Shadow Bug Bite Fortress. Typically, Shadow Fortress prefers to be on Bug Bite, and the non-Shadow prefers to be on Volt Switch. The fact that they're non-Shadow means that these Bug Bites are really not all that threatening onto the Quagsire. Quagsire's Aqua Tail is going to land, and switch advantage has been obtained. Opponent sends in Corviknight. Corviknight is going to get a pretty monster farm down, but winning switch advantage is incredible, because the moment the opponent ends up pivoting out of this Corviknight matchup and sending in Licky, they will have lost the game, because Pangoro is going to absolutely feast. Corviknight, no, they're on Iron Head, that hits for big damage, but then they make the game-losing misplay of pivoting out and sending in Licky. Licky just gets completely destroyed by Pangoro. There is no way around it. They go for the body slam. Pangoro again baits with the Night Slash. I find these baits against Licky to be very, very risky, because if Licky calls it, then Pangoro's going to have to go down shields. And the bait does end up being called. That's going to put Pangoro in a bit of a difficult spot. There is still some energy loaded on the Articuno, but by not just full sending the close combat, suddenly this match is a lot less clear. In comes Corviknight. Pangoro makes the Night Slash. This will not take the knockout, but will put the Corviknight very low. Shield comes up. In comes Articuno. Articuno racing to get to the Icy Wind, but unable to get there. Corviknight goes for the Air Cutter, hoping it will take the knockout, but it's not going to do so. Instead, Articuno gets a full farm down. Articuno Powder Snows down, and the opponent will resign the match. We move to game number 3. Articuno picks up a dominant lead win, leading into Togekiss. Opponent safe switches into Licky, and what do you know? Pangoro as the answer, and I feel like this is deja vu. 3 games, 3 times Pangoro has been on Licky. Again, Pangoro going for the Night Slash here. I think as the Pangoro, you should always just full send close combat, because the only way Licky generates any kind of advantage is if they call the Night Slash bait. Pangoro no shields, now very low. This Night Slash will not take the knockout, but it will be putting Licky deep into the red. Night Slash will be shielded. Licky trying for a farm down. Pangoro gets the boost, and now they're going to have to double shield if they want switch. It all went off the rails for the opponent. They made the correct call calling the Night Slash, but then they end up double shielding, and that's a decision that is highly likely to backfire. Shadow Ball shielded up by the Quagsire. There's a pivot out into Gourgeist, and Gourgeist is about to get shredded by Articuno. Articuno will respect a potential Shadow Ball. Articuno wants to get as much energy as possible. Opponent will go for the Seed Bomb bait. They try and make another move, but Articuno is going to cut that off and fire off the Icy Wind. Icy Wind will be the end of Gourgeist. The opponent still has Togekiss and a little bit of Licky left. In comes Togekiss, no catch comes through, and that means Icy Wind is guaranteed to land on the Togekiss. Togekiss will survive, but now they're debuffed. In comes Licky just to get Water Gun down. At an unfortunately for the opponent, even switch advantage was never going to save them there. Picking up a pretty tough lead in game number 4, Articuno into Piloswine. Safe switch into the Water Gun Quagsire, unanswered from the opponent, and it appears they don't have a strong answer to the Quag. Icicle Spear will land, they pivot out, they send in Togekiss, and this is such an important bait out. This would have absolutely obliterated the Pangoro, but now it's been baited out, and they shielded an Aqua Tail bait. Shadow Quagsire, just enough HP remaining to make it to a second Aqua Tail, and this is going to be putting the Togekiss very low. Now, the Togekiss should be able to make it to 2 Aura Spheres into the Articuno, but Articuno, for being a Great League Legendary, actually has surprisingly okay bulk. So that really won't be a problem for Articuno. Articuno can just tank both of those Aura Spheres, farm down, and then hope that Pangoro up a shield will be able to sweep. In comes Pangoro, answered with Beware, and this game is over. Pangoro goes for a Night Slash bait. I feel this is an endgame where triple close combat would be game winning, and the opponent calls it. They're recognizing that they're down a shield, they're down energy. The only potential win con is to try and call a bait. But the good news is even if they try and call a bait, this game is still not going to be a win because Pangoro is still just so far ahead. Pangoro fires up the Night Slash, gets the boost, and wins charge attack priority as well. Now the opponent's going to have to switch in that Piloswine. Piloswine will get absolutely obliterated by close combat, and from here, Pangoro will just be able to farm down. So even with the opponent calling the bait, it just did not matter. Once Togekiss was baited out, that Pangoro was a nightmare. Pretty awkward lead in the next match, leading Articuno into Wigglytuff. I imagine Wigglytuff probably just wins this matchup because Wigglytuff basically wins every neutral matchup. With Pangoro in the back, getting rid of Wigglytuff is priority number 1, and Wigglytuff is putting up shields. Wigglytuff overfarms to throw on alignment in a classic Wigglytuff play. Wigglytuff not often known for throwing on good charge attack timing, and that's going to allow Articuno perfect charge attack timing as it makes it to the Icy Wind. Icy Wind will connect, really not going to do much. This is a debuffed Wigglytuff, so hopefully Articuno will be able to hang on here. It's actually double debuffed. Swift lands, Articuno survives. Look at Articuno go. Articuno throwing 2 Powder Snows in the Icy Wind, hoping this will take the knockout, but Wigglytuff will put up the shield. Wigglytuff double shielding, getting the farm down, but this will set up Pangoro with a shield advantage for the endgame. In comes the Quagsire. This is a triple debuffed Wigglytuff. That Icy Wind going to be doing nothing, and Quagsire gets the farm down. Opponent waiting down the timer, trying to decide what to do next. They bring in Altaria. This is a debuff Stone Edge, but it will still do quite a lot of damage. Opponent tries for a catch of the Stone Edge onto Quagsire, and Quagsire is instantly answered with Pangoro. Excellent no shield here from Pangoro. Aqua Tail not going to threaten a KO, and now Pangoro can look to inflict devastating damage with the close combat. Close combat is just such an incredibly efficient attack. Quagsire survives on 1 HP. Aqua Tail will knock out the Pangoro. Opponent undercharges the Aqua Tail because they want farm for the Altaria. Altaria is going to have to try and make 2 Sky attacks. Quagsire has the Stone Edge, and Quagsire should be able to make Stone Edge into Aqua Tail before the opponent gets their double Sky attack. Honestly, Quagsire might just get the Water Gun down, almost gets the Water Gun down, but the Aqua Tail is available. They needed back-to-back Sky attacks. They were unable to get there, and this team just keeps putting together win after win. Articuno into Fearow. This should be a very positive lead for Articuno, and the opponent is not pivoting out. Fearow does have the pacing advantage here, but Articuno, the more shields that are in play, is just going to absolutely stomp on Fearow because Fearow is taking so much damage, and Fearow is about to be debuffed. The main reason why a Pokemon like Fearow can be so successful is the fact that it is very efficient pacing, but it hits very hard. Once it's been Icy Winded, it doesn't have nearly the same damage and is suddenly a lot less threatening. Opponent safe switches into Fortress. It's another non-Shadow Bug Bite Fortress, which very much surprises me. We did just have a Rocket event where Fortress was one of the featured leader mons, so I was actually able to get a new Bug Bite Fortress, which is quite nice. But the regular Fortress on Bug Bite, it just does not hit nearly as hard. Quagsire tanks those Bug Bites very comfortably and gets a full Water Gun down. If the opponent brings in Fearow, Fearow can just be Water Gun down. They're thinking about it, they do bring in the Fearow. They try and snipe with Go-Goat, but the Quagsire is just simply too healthy. Quagsire fires off Stone Edge. Go-Goat puts up the shield. Articuno is very, very low. In comes the Articuno. Will the Go-Goat be able to get a Vine Whip down? No, they fire off energy. Articuno with the no shield. This game is all up to Pangoro. Go-Goat is surprisingly bulky. Every time I play against it, I am shocked by how little damage this Pokemon takes, but close combat is just a truly absurdly efficient move. Opponent unable to get a catch. That's what they would have needed. Close combat guaranteed to land. Go-Goat gets KO'd. In comes the Fearow. Fearow's gonna be knocked out with a Night Slash. It got a little bit scary there at the end with Go-Goat, but luckily close combat landing on the Go-Goat, taking the knockout, is going to secure the win. Tricky lead in the next match, regardless of fast move, as Articuno leads into Shadow Fortress. It ends up being a Volt Switch Fortress, the Quagsire Save Switch hard punish with the Gourgeist, and it's just all going wrong in this game. Seed Bomb lands, Quagsire survives, unable to make the Stone Edge, forced to settle for the Aqua Tail, but you could not ask for much of a worse start to a game. In comes Articuno. Articuno can try for a full farm down here, but it is going to pay a pretty heavy price. Articuno shields up as Gourgeist will go for the Shadow Ball. Articuno trying to get the farm down, does barely get that farm down. It was not by much. In comes Fortress, Icy Wind bait from the Articuno, trying to grab a shield from the opponent, and they do put up the shield. Maybe there's a chance. They fire off energy, but this is only a Sand Tomb. It's not going to be enough to secure the KO. Sand Tomb is survivable for the Articuno, and now in comes Pangoro. Pangoro will always get the one-turn switch in there, so unable to get the sneak as Sand Tomb number 2 is going to connect. The Fortress not pivoting out just yet. Pangoro farming up, waiting the turn to ensure that the Volt Switch lands before the close combat. Close combat will be shielded. Pangoro unable to make close combat number 2. Pangoro is now at -4 defense with the Sand Tomb. Pangoro throwing one karate chop, this time not going to wait the turn, making sure that the damage does not register. It's at -4. It's a Piloswine in the back. Can Piloswine get one shot by Hurricane? Come on, Articuno. Hurricane hits for some pretty significant damage. Piloswine survives. Articuno farms down. And against all odds, somehow, that nightmare of a game ends in a win. The rough leads continue in the next match, leading Articuno into Qwilfish. Qwilfish has a completely dominant matchup there, so in comes the Water Gun Quagsire, but this is honestly not much better. Qwilfish able to land the Aqua Tail, dealing some pretty significant damage, and the opponent's going to be sending out a Sableye. Sableye can survive the Aqua Tail, but it would put them very, very low. Sableye forced to fire off energy. This would be a bit of a rough farm down for Pangoro, but the Sableye is actually on Drain Punch. Now it's going to be an even more difficult farm down for the Panda. In comes Panda. Drain Punch will be hitting for big, super effective damage. Pangoro forced to put up the shield. The Immortal Sableye coming in clutch for the opponent. Pangoro still cannot get the farm down. All those karate chops later, this Sableye refusing to get KO'd, and that is able to generate a pretty massive advantage for the opponent. In comes Corviknight. Pangoro gonna be full sending close combat, hoping to try and land it. Close combat does connect, and in comes Articuno. But this just really feels like a game that cannot be won, as Articuno is answered by the Qwilfish, and Qwilfish is just so consistent into Articuno. Articuno farms up to the Hurricane, gonna go for an Icy Wind bait, hoping to try and grab a shield from the opponent, and the bait is successful. If Qwilfish is running Scald, then it would probably still take the knockout at -1, but they overfarm too much and let Articuno make another Icy Wind. Now suddenly, this matchup seems a lot more playable. There's a bunch of energy still on the Pangoro. Qwilfish goes for the Ice Beam. Articuno survives. In comes Pangoro as Qwilfish fires off a -2 move. This is going to be a -2 Aqua Tail that's really not going to do much, and in comes the Corviknight. The opponent not saving that energy on the Qwilfish, instead they fired it off, might end up coming back to cost them. Suddenly, this Pangoro is looking very, very deadly. Night Slash lands, Corviknight will get KO'd, in comes the Qwilfish, and Qwilfish will be hit with the Night Slash as well. I believe there is a little bit of energy on the Articuno. Switch timer's up. Articuno tries to make it to a move, and that forces energy out of the Qwilfish. Can Pangoro get the farm down? This is going to be close. In comes Pangoro. It's a simultaneous KO, and the game will end in a tie. Articuno into Stunfisk in the next match. I imagine this should be a pretty good matchup for Articuno, at the very least in the one shield. Well, it's even better if you're able to save the Articuno energy and catch the discharge onto Quagsire. That's a very nice play. The Shadow Gyarados switching from the opponent could prove to be a little bit problematic. I really like the play to just go straight for the Aqua Tail. Get whatever chip damage you can get on this Pokemon, because Gyarados is very, very frail. Had Quagsire tried to farm up to the Stone Edge, Gyarados could have threatened a knockout, and Quagsire wouldn't have gotten any value for the energy. But instead, Quagsire actually got some very nice value. Gyarados is very low, and Articuno will put up the shield and try and Powder Snow down. Articuno just does get the Powder Snow down, back in comes the Stunfisk, but suddenly the matchup is flipped on its head. Articuno's down a shield, but it's up a ton of energy, and that energy is going to leave a serious dent onto the Stunfisk. Icy Wind wins charge attack priority over discharge. Now it's going to be a -2 discharge, and Articuno should tank that very, very easily. That discharge lands. Oh, that does nothing. Opponent pivots out. They have Spiritomb in the back, and Pangoro is the perfect Pokemon to close out this game. Icy Wind is going to be no shielded. In comes Pangoro. Pangoro reaching for the Night Slash, but unable to get there. This is a very easy no-shield for Pangoro, as everything Spiritomb can throw is debuffed and resisted, and now Pangoro, debuffed itself, can look to fire off the Night Slash and try and take the knockout. Spiritomb survives, but gets karate chopped down. There's no way out. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping to the final match, one game before Legend, and it's gonna be Articuno into Shadow Gyarados. Gyarados will have the pacing advantage here. Oh my goodness, it's a Waterfall Gyarados. That is an incredibly cool decision from the opponent. But unfortunately, they do end up throwing on Alignment, which maybe gives Articuno an opening in this matchup. The Gyarados just really didn't want to be debuffed before forcing a shield, but now, by throwing on Alignment, Articuno is able to outpace, and Articuno makes Icy Wind number 2 before Aqua Tail number 2. Icy Wind is going to be shielded up. This is now a double debuffed Gyarados. They overfarm to throw on Alignment, and Articuno more than happy to let this go. Aqua Tail is going to land. Articuno reaching for the Icy Wind, but just not quite able to get there. In comes Quagsire. Opponent pivots out. They send in the Gourgeist, and Pangoro genuinely doesn't have the greatest matchup ever here. Pangoro will fire off the Night Slash, but these Incinerates and Seed Bombs do definitely add up. Pangoro gets the boost. They're now with the back-to-back Seed Bombs. Pangoro, however, does have the Night Slash, so it can fire off the Night Slash here and win charge attack priority. So, unfortunately, almost the entire Pangoro has been lost, but there is still a little bit of HP remaining as in comes Fortress. This is the Volt Switch Fortress. This means they have absolutely no fast move pressure to speak of into the Quagsire. Quagsire will make the Aqua Tail, and this is going to hurt. Shadow on Shadow. Fortress gets rocked. Fortress farms up a ton of energy, but Quagsire is just simply never going to shield. They farm up to the back-to-back Sand Tubes. There's the pivot, and in comes Gyarados. But with a shield to hide behind, Quagsire can put up the shield, get the Water Gun down. They probably need to try and reach for a Rock Tomb here, as it would do more, but they're unable to get there. Shadow Quagsire with a shield takes down the Fortress, and that's a good game. All in all, big congratulations to Maki for making it to Legend, and doing so with a very creative team. Articuno not paired with the Pokemon you would expect, which is Licky Licky in this meta, and instead just trying to hard counter Licky Licky in the back with the Water Gun Shadow Quagsire and the Pangoro. While Articuno really set the stage nicely in a lot of these games, it felt like kind of the sleeper MVP was that Pangoro, having such a consistent answer to all of the normal type save switches, which was basically just Licky Licky 15 times in a row, just really set up the team for success. But I really like that Articuno got access to Powder Snow over Ice Shard, as Ice Shard is an incredibly mediocre fast move. With Powder Snow, Articuno just feels a lot more dynamic. Unfortunately, 6-6-5 pacing, like 12-12-10 pacing, in a meta environment where there's a lot of 8-turn pacing, does still make Articuno feel quite slow in the context of an open format, but in a limited format like the Jungle Cup, where a lot of the best Pokemon are not allowed, I really like that lower-powered Pokemon like Articuno are able to shine, and in this case, make it all the way up to Legend rank. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do help support the channel by leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support guys provided to the channel is so appreciated, so thank you guys, oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.